Okay, hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, it's Christine Lackey from Untangled Mom, and let's untangle this. And what is this week? I'm so excited. This is a really cool week about body image. And what I mean by that is not just for parents. This is about body image issues that us women have as women, whether we're single, we're in a relationship, or as a mom. And if we are a mom, how does that translate to our children? What I'm doing this week is interviewing a few people, moms in particular, because we're the experts. And I honestly believe that. We're going to learn from each other. We're going straight to the experts. We're in the trenches every day doing this stuff. And how I think we're going to learn the best is from each other. So today I have goosebumps, and everybody who ever watches me will find out that I get the goosebumps all the time when something really important is happening. I'm going to get really emotional because I do that too. So today I have Kirsten Herzig over here on my side, who is somebody I have known for a very, very long time. We were acquaintances, then friends, then we got married around the same time. Then we moved away, then I moved toward, then we moved away, then we moved toward. And we have daughters our daughters are how far apart?
11 months.
11 months.
No.
And my daughter will say, my best friend that I've known my entire life since the day I was born was Kirsten's daughter, right?
Yes.
Yes. So
yes.
before we start, tell everybody a little bit about you with regard to mom, your kids, your age, and what do you do?
My mom?
No, you, who you are.
I just turned 50, May 2nd.
Woo! Welcome to the club.
Broke my foot 2 weeks later. First broken bone in my life. I have two children with my husband, David. They are a year apart in school and about 1 year and 3/4 apart in age, which has been really fun and challenging and fun. And I can't imagine it any other way. They are the light of our lives, obviously. And I love being a mom.
How old are they?
14 and 15.
And it's interesting because I had interviewed Kimberly Langsfeld yesterday, who has children who are 12 months and 4 days apart. And I didn't realize that I had two women that I'm interviewing this week whose kids are so close. And I know she had talked about she wouldn't do it any other way. And at the time, it was like having twins.
Yes.
Except they didn't have the same exact needs.
No, I've heard it's more challenging than twins, and just that one is moving out of a stage as the other's moving, and you're just constantly chasing your tail, trying to figure out what they're up to. They're busy. Yeah. They're so busy.
Yeah. And what does that do to you as a mom to have kids that are so busy, but not completely on the same page?
Yeah, it was challenging for sure. There's probably about 2 years of our lives, my husband and mine, that are a complete blur.
Yeah.
Because we just woke up every day not knowing, especially on weekends when we both worked. And so our children went to preschool. So it was all up to us, and it was all up to us to fill that day, whatever that's going to look like, and what mood are they going to wake up into, and how are we going to work with that. And it was a challenge for sure, but an exciting challenge. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I loved that they could bathe together. They could do things together. They liked the same TV shows, Dora and all those at the same time. They weren't fighting over wanting something more mature or less mature. They were very equal that way. And that made it easy on us. But the whole potty training and sleeping through the night and all of that stuff, right? When you got one in the position, the next would come along. And so you'd have to readjust and figure that one out. But in the same breath, I remembered exactly, this worked for her, so I'm going to try it on him, because that was only 6 months ago. So I remember. So that was really fun. But things change quickly in the parenting world, and the way you do things, and the toys and things that you can get within months, weeks of each other. So there was always something new for Will.
Yeah.
But for the most part,
because Will's your youngest.
Yes. And our daughter's name is Palmer. And for the most part, they could have the same blueprint.
Well, let me ask you a question, because they have different personalities. So they have different personalities. So one thing may have worked for your daughter who was older. What happened when it didn't work for him?
We would feed him. It always worked, no matter what. Put food in front of him. Yeah, we would just readjust, talk to you probably. My sister-in-law was a great wealth of knowledge. My aunt, my mom at the time, just, yeah, you lean in on friends and ask questions. I have no problem calling a friend in complete tears saying, what's going on? Just readjusting the course, because I'm a planner. And so if it worked for Palmer, I assumed it was going to work for Will. So oftentimes I'd be like, wait, why isn't this working? So readjusting the course and just putting up a new plan in place.
Yeah.
Things changed.
How did it affect your marriage? I wanted to ask that question yesterday. I didn't even think about it, but having kids so close together, like, how did it affect your marriage? It seems so intense.
It was really intense, but I don't know any different. So I look back on those days and we, believe it or not, daydream like, oh, those were such simple times, mainly because they're both very involved with activities. It was a quieter time and I had control over their time. And if you know me, I like to have a little bit of control. So as they grew and they had schedules, I'd be like, well, no, that practice gets out too late. We can't have family dinner. And it just, again, readjusting the course. But back then, I don't know. My husband's pretty easygoing. He loves a plan and I like to make the plan. So it worked for us. But I would say we were just as close then as we are now. What was also relevant in our life at that time is if one of us was having a bad day or a child was having a bad day, we would say divide and conquer. I'll take Palmer and we'll go look at pretty things and you take Will and go bike riding or whatever it is.
So I love that you just said that. It's like you guys had a system and you had these like keywords of like, okay, time to divide and conquer. Because I do have a lot of parents that I work with where the mom is like, all this is going on in the house and I just need him to notice. And oftentimes I'm like, are you asking? And when you are asking, how are you asking? But I love that let's divide and conquer, especially if it's done with some levity too, and because there's some truth in it.
Yeah,
there is. So you also said, did you say that he would make the plan and you followed through with the plan, or you made the plan and he followed? What was that?
I think he allowed me to make the plan as far as what products, what shampoo is best for their hair, what food's best for them to eat. He reads a lot and I don't read a lot. So he would do the investigation and come back to me with information. And then I would put the plan in place. And I'm not saying I'm a dictator by any means. What works in our marriage is we're a team, and always have been.
It's funny. It's funny that you say dictator, because I'm not hearing that at all. I'm just what I'm hearing, and I love what you're saying, because you're putting into words so much of what I talk to couples about, which is finding that flow. All of life, especially relationships, have to be about that flow. It's like, okay, who's good at what? I don't like to read. You like to read and research. Tell me what you find, and then I'll figure it out. Like, that's a team. And for so many of us couples, I think we lose sight of how important we are together. Mm-hmm. Like, we lose sight. Oftentimes we can get caught up in, here's what you're not good at, and here's what I'm better at than you are, as opposed to, oh, so what's your strength and what's my strength? Mm-hmm. And even I think when we do that as couples, we teach our children the same thing. So what we teach our kids is, hey, Will, what is your strength? Hey, Palmer, what's your strength? And how do you guys share that with each other? There was that my kids have two different personalities, as well as they should. And one of the things I would say to them when they were a lot smaller was, and we still bring it up, is my daughter can be very safety conscious and really pulled back. And my son can be a little bit more of a whirlwind. And I think your children mirror that a bit. And today I was talking to the kids, I said, here's the beauty of your relationship. And this is the beauty of relationships. And that's this. There's going to be a day that you guys are out in a field and you're going to be playing and running, and you're going to come to a cliff. And Riley, you're going to grab Ryder and say, stop, buddy, it's not safe. And you're going to be right. And then there's going to be another time that you're in this field and you're running and you're running and you're running and you're playing. And you get to the cliff and Ryder's going to say, sis, it's time to jump.
Yeah.
And rely on each other for that, you know, because what I'm hearing from you with regard to your marriage is, oh, he has my back and I have his.
Oh yeah.
And then what does that offer you with regard to your home?
Just the team mentality, and our kids can see it all the time. We've always worked in team. I guess I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, we've always been a team.
Totally.
It's strange to be talking about this stuff.
No, well, and the thing is like, what is so important that I share with parents all the time is like, look, your kids are mirroring you every day. They mirror the way you speak, the looks on your face, the way that you communicate, the way you come together, they mirror everything. So when parents can be in that space of teamwork and I've got your back, what it creates is a sense of belonging. And this is the theme that I said was going to go through every single day this week, is this sense of belonging. When we know we belong, we feel secure. When we feel secure, we're confident to move forward. It's just that simple. Mm. And our kids are always looking to find out, do I belong here? Do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you love me? Now, when they see parents reflecting that, it's huge. But when you see them, it's even more. And I wrote some notes about you, about some of the things that I wanted to say. And here's one of the things with some of the parents I'm interviewing is I've asked, what's your superpower? And I'm not going to ask you because I'm going to name one of your greatest superpowers. And it's a superpower that I actually share with parents all the time. And it is so simple and wonderful and magic. And this is what Kirsten does. Okay. I will never forget. Our girls were at my house and they were doing like a little talent show, right?
Always.
They would get up and they were doing this performance, and I'm a people watcher. So I'm an observer, and it's just what I do. So of course I'm like observing her and observing her child and my child. Kirsten has this way of seeing her children completely. It felt as if, as I was watching you watch your daughter, that there was nothing else in that space. There was nothing else going on in that moment. The only thing that mattered was this child in front of you. And it felt like your chest was like broken wide open with such love as you watched her. And I was like, oh my God. Because, and I see you do that with your son. And I have seen you do that very often when David, your husband, walks in the door too. I think you're incredibly good at stopping and being present. And it gives such a sense of belong. That child felt more seen and more heard and more loved and belonged so much in that moment. And there was some research that went on, and it's a really cool research project. And what they did is they started looking at the effect of the words of parents on their children. And they measured it based on the sense of safety and security of the child and their ability to perform and show up, right? And here's what it was. So they would look at the parents that said, oh, I'm so proud of you. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Versus the parents that said, oh my gosh, I love to watch you dance. I love to watch you play football. Oh my gosh, I love watching you guys cook together. It makes me feel so good. It's like it creates a chemical reaction between mother and father and child. It just does. And there's a sense of, and I watched it that day, it was just it was the most magical moment. I watched Palmer that day, but it was like, you could see her body just be like, oh, and it wasn't so much of what she was doing. That was a part of it. Right. But it was like, you just seeing her filled her up so much. And again, I see you do that with your kids over and over and over again. And it's a superpower.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. I don't realize I'm doing it. I do, of course, you know, to me, I'm sitting here going, well, of course she was putting on a talent show. I have to watch. I mean, because there are times when I say not now, I can't now.
Sure.
But, or they walk in and I'm on this and they know not now or working. But yeah, if it's time to watch, it's time to watch.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have to say, for a lot of parents, it's hard to know when that time is. It really is. And a lot of parents will sit there on their phone, and I'm going to turn my settings off because I didn't do that. So I'm going to do that right now so we don't get interrupted. Thank you. A lot of parents will actually be like, yeah, I'm watching you. Yeah. Or
there are times, but
of course you do. And I think you are much better than I think it's not better. You are much more conscientious than most parents I've been around about making that important. So here's the other thing. There's a lot of different types of parenting theories out there and different tools and ways of showing up for your kids. And there's some parenting that is like, you know, make sure you give 10 minutes a day of undivided attention to your children. And what I see happen with that a lot of times is kids are like, oh, yeah, she's giving me her 10 minutes of undivided attention. And it doesn't feel real.
Right.
You know, it feels so contrived.
Yeah.
But my dog is snoring. So if you hear her snoring, if you hear a snore or something, it's so not me, or it's not coming from a body anywhere. It's my dog. It is like, and I will give examples to parents of how to find these moments, right? So one of the things I'll say is you're driving down the road, you get to a red light, turn and look at your kid.
My favorite.
It's my favorite.
I got them.
Reach around and grab that toe for the little ones, right? Reach around and grab a foot. There is something really magical in that moment of, yes, we're going someplace. Yes, we're on the way. And God, I gotcha.
Yeah, I gotcha. And I love my children both get car sick, so they can't even be on their devices. So I really get them in the car. And I can't tell you how many times the four of us, I'm a dork at heart, and the four of us will be in the car and I'll say, we're all in the car. Like, I got you guys in my little box. I love it. Yeah, I take those opportunities. I feel like you may have taught me that. It's being in the car is such an important time to have those big talks. It's comfortable for the child because you're not sitting there staring face to face.
Yep.
You can look out the window, you can whatever, but it takes that intensity off of what could be an intense conversation. So the car is my favorite. It's funny you say that.
Yeah. Something else that is one in the going with that, you know, and watching, there's something about making people feel special that I think you're good at as well. So I'll give a story because I love my stories. I don't remember what year it was. I think
stories, Christina.
I know. I think it was when my ex-husband and I were going toward our divorce. It was my birthday, and Kirsten and her daughter invited me and my daughter for my birthday. Didn't tell me where we were going, and we went to this little restaurant in town, and I put on like a little dress because she's a good dresser, and I'll talk about this shirt in a moment because I'm wearing it because of her. And so I like put a little dress on, but the best part of it was we stopped and opened up the back of the trunk of the car on the way back home because she had little desserts in it, and sat by this lake with this mountain view. Say it again.
Yeah, that view.
The view. Yeah. And the four of us sat there having these little desserts in the back of the car. And I was just like, and I think again, with regard to parenting and everything, it's so important we lose sight of these special little moments. Kids don't want the big stuff. They love it and they enjoy it, but what they need It's little stuff. And the reason why I'm pointing to all this stuff, especially around body image, okay, is because the more secure we feel through belonging and love, the more secure we feel confidently in our bodies. It just goes hand in hand. It absolutely just goes hand in hand. There's a couple of stories that I want you to tell, but first, you broke your foot.
Yep.
And your hip is messed up on the other side.
Yep.
And you do yoga every day.
Yep.
Yep.
Not right now.
Yep. So how you doing with that?
I'm a little grumpy. I did some push-ups today. That was nice. But yeah, I'm a mover, and to not move, it affects my mental state. I just feel better when I can move. And that movement can be anything. I can go dancing at a concert. That feels good. But yeah, I'm missing my early morning. I also have a community that we do it together. And we haven't been able to do that since March 12th.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's important to you because it's how it makes you feel, not because of what you look like, is why you do it?
Oh, it's 90% an emotional thing and how I feel for the rest of the day. But it's also a health thing, you know, of course, to keep my body healthy and my mind healthy. But yeah, I think it for sure stemmed from a body thing, definitely. And then I realized it's far more than fitting into the better jeans, the different, better size in my mind, whatever that is. But yeah, it grew from that for sure. It definitely started as to lose weight, to get fit, to lose weight, to lose weight, to lose weight.
So how did it change? What changed?
I think when, I think as I got older, and my mother was ill and just learned the overall health benefits. Of course, I always knew I was on a high school athletics and skied all my life and knew there were underlying benefits to exercise. But then I started to realize if I skipped a day, it affected me as a mom. I'm a better mom. I'm a better person. I'm a better employee. It's a mental switch for me when I get those endorphins. And it's just an hour a day. It's not like I'm an endurance athlete or anything.
No, but you have your days that you could go off for longer periods of times and hiking and like when you skied too. But what you're naming that, and I started naming this on Monday, which was where the shift happened in my body away from having an eating disorder was when I started to notice how my body felt.
Mm.
It was less about the judgment of what my body looked like. And I just started to notice how I felt in my body and how I wanted to continue to feel in my body. Mm. And also I started recognizing how certain foods made me feel. Mm. I know, like in the 80s, carbs were the thing, right? So it was like, I grew up with like steak and eggs and vegetables, and we didn't do a lot of sugar. We just didn't. And then in the 80s, the whole carbohydrate thing hit. My mom brought in pasta and lean cuisines and bagels and got rid of all fat. And I can honestly say that's a big part of when my eating disorder started. It chemically messes up my whole system when I eat a lot of like refined sugars. I don't like the way I feel. And my kids will make fun of me too. Like if it's the afternoon, I'm like, let's go get ice cream. They're like, oh, yay, you're going to suck in an hour. Mom, you're going to have a headache. I'm like, I don't care. We're fine. And we'll go and have ice cream. And about 45 minutes later, I'm like,
yeah,
I just don't feel good. So do you then make a conscious choice to speak to your kids about how their body feels? Like, how do you translate it over?
I always want them to move their bodies, whether it's just a stroll, a walk, or being on an athletic team where you have practices and games. But I think it's really important that you move the body. And that's my only message. I never message a weight connection to that at all. It's always just about, it makes you feel better. It's better for you. But I grew up, like most of us, in a home where my mom was always on a diet. Her famous diet was the Special K diet, where she would eat Special K for 10 days at a time and Diet Coke. And
holy.
Yeah.
And hey, just to let everybody know, we're all at home. So if you hear noise behind us, it's because we have kids,
Yes.
we have partners, we've got dogs, and everything is welcome here.
Yes.
So
no,
you were,
yeah, it was never, it was, and that wasn't the fact growing up. It was, my dad was a really big runner. My mom didn't really exercise. She played tennis, but for her, it was the eating piece that she could control. So she could control what she put in her body and how she looked, but I am not messaging that at all to my children. It's all about just moving your body and feeling good because it's healthy for you. And I've recently told my daughter, I don't care what your weight is, it's if you're healthy or not and how you feel about that weight.
Right.
All I care about.
Yeah. And that was a message that you helped me with because, you know, for me growing up, everybody called me olive oil when I was, you know, younger. And I sort of feel like I'm a little bit of that again today. And my daughter's body, she and I mirrored each other so much when she was little. And then she hit puberty and I'm like, did you take my tits and ass? Because you got them and I don't, right? And so for me, looking at that image, I'm like, Kirsten, I called Kirsten one day. I'm like, Kirsten, like her body's changing. And it's not my body. It's really not. And like, what if she gets big? And she goes, shut up.
I remember.
You need what did you tell me? Do you remember?
I just said, don't ever call it out to her because that happened to me. And I remember the moment by my mom. I just told you that she will figure it out on her own when she goes to put on those jeans and they just don't button quite right. So I just said, please don't call it out to her. Let her figure it out herself.
And can you share that memory of what happened with your mom?
Sure. It was college, coming home from either Christmas break or summer break. And the freshman 15 definitely had come to my life. And we were ordering from the local pizza salad place. And she said, what would you like? And I said, a steak and cheese sub with extra cheese and mayo. And she looked at me and she goes, do you really need that extra cheese and mayo? And that's all it took. I was like, what is she? Because I knew I was putting on those jeans and they weren't fitting right. So I knew what she was saying, but to hear it come out of her was like, I lost that 15 pounds real quick.
So what did you hear her say? And
you're fat. Hands down.
So your mom is dieting all the time, right? And the thing that she can control is her body with food. And now you come home and she says you're fat. So what does that mean then about your relationship with your mom in that moment? I
remember being jealous of her because she could eat Special K for 10 days and drink Diet Coke, where I was in my teens, late teens, maybe 20, but probably late teens, where all I wanted to do was go to Christopher Stubbs and have a bacon cheese sandwich with extra cheese and mayo, because that's what all my friends were doing. And and I would run, and I was on the tennis team in high school, but at that point in my life, I think I would run every now and then. And I remember thinking, wow, that felt really good. I hope I can do it again tomorrow. And I wouldn't.
Right.
Then something clicked later in my life when I moved up in Colorado in the mountains.
Right.
That I realized I got to keep this going, and ran and hiked and realized that I can keep that feeling going. And it had nothing to do with weight at that point.
Right. And I'm going to go back a little bit to that memory with your mom, because here's the thing. I don't care how old you are, you're somebody's child. You just are. And because you were in college, you're still a child to your mom coming home. Yep. And what is it that you want the most from her?
I want her to, hold on one second, my son.
Okay. Welcome.
What did I want from my mom? I wanted her to pay attention to me. She was very much that mom. She was such a good mom.
Look at you. You're doing, what is this?
The best heart. Everyone loved my mom, and I loved her dearly, dearly, dearly. But she was always busy. She never played games with us. That would be my dad's role. My dad coached my soccer team, those types of things. She was always there, and I felt so safe and secure. And she always provided wonderful meals and all that stuff. But she didn't really take a ton of interest, and this is younger in my life, ton of interest in what I was doing, is my recollection. As I got older, she became really involved. And I think that's the memory I remember of her now that she's gone, is how important of a role she played in my life. But really, I hate saying this out loud, I think when I was younger, she just provided. She didn't really get in there in the nitty gritty with me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. Yeah. And what do you think when you roll that camera back a little bit and you sit with that for a moment, as a mom today who you have made it such a concerted effort to make sure, like, I'm getting in there with my kids all the time, right? And we can see the impact that it has. Do you feel like there was an impact because she wasn't there early on? And this isn't a blame game at all. It's just, it is a name game.
I mean, sure, everything that happened had an impact, obviously. Did that impact? I don't say it quite. Ask me again in a different. You're asking if her reluctance to really get in the trenches with me impacted my life? Yes, of course. But I think she, at some point in her life, she maybe then realized it, because once I was an adult, especially once I got married and had kids, she was right there in the trenches with me.
Yeah.
She was the one I would call when I was having a bad day, for sure.
And, there's an interesting thing too about parenting, which is some of us are not comfortable with, we want children, but we're not comfortable with them. I think there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of doubt, whether I'm going to get this right. I'm working with a client now who's pregnant. And so much of what we talk about is she's like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm just not going to be able to do this. And sometimes you take that fear into things when our kids are little. And I mean, I remember thinking, like, if I don't, when we're moms and we have little, or even dads. So if I say moms too much, please understand where I'm coming from. I'm very inclusive dads too. I think you're very important people and you play a very important part. But remember when we brought those babies home and we would like put them down and then we'd stare, like, are they breathing? And then if I give them this first bite of food, are they going to choke? And if they choke, what am I going to do? There are some people that have a lot of fear. And that's another component in our marriages and relationships, whether you're married or not. It is about finding that other to complement you where it's not a negative thing. I want to be really clear. It's not. It's about being truthful about how you feel. I'm not comfortable here. I'm just not. I need help with this someplace. I was very lucky when I had my kids because we had our business, we ran it out of the house. So there were times that I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. And the woman who was managing my company would be like, I'm going for a walk. I'm taking Riley with me. Got her, no problem. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because there was love abound, right? And I had that somebody there in those moments that I'm like, I don't have it. So for some of us parents to recognize it is okay if the younger years aren't your comfort zone, find a way in that to connect with your children, find some way and talk about it openly with your partner to say, how do we partner in this? How do I support you at this time while we do? It's important. All of this communication is so incredibly important because it makes us feel more comfortable and confident as that particular parent. It empowers the other parent and it makes a more secure child. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you also told me this other story about your mom that I think is super cute. And it's telling, right? Which was when you guys would go for that drive and as you were pulling into the town.
Oh, yes. I thought, was she also, yes. We would drive to our Vermont house every weekend. And for some reason, I know it was every time we did this, but one in particular time, we must have left on a Saturday morning instead of a Friday night. And it was just my mom and myself in the car. And we were almost there. We were at the cemetery where she's now buried, which is kind of funny as I sit here and tell the story. But she would pull over to powder her nose. And we were just going to our Vermont house where it would be my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my grandmother, like family. That's it. But she would have to powder her nose before we pulled in. And we were so close. I would just be like, Mom, we're there, like minutes away. Why do you have to powder your nose and brush your hair, the whole thing? But yeah.
So the reason why I love this story is we're talking about subliminal messages that we pick up, right? So we pick up these subliminal messages. Kirsten comes home from college and her mom's like, do you really want to eat that? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I think part of what could have been picked up, even with the, you know, the powdering of the nose is, and the dieting all the time, it's about your appearance. It is about your appearance and you need to pull it together. It's about your appearance.
Southern.
Say it again.
Southern.
Oh, well, I was from Florida and I shared, I think it was yesterday, how my mom would be like, Christine, you're going to put some lip gloss on before we walk out the door? Do you want to know, who might you meet? You're going to brush your hair? Like, what you going to do? You're going to wear clogs? You're going to sound like a cow. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was so much about like our appearance. So when you've got a mom who you know, that's so important to her. And again, I want to point to belonging, okay? So if your mom needs to powder her nose and brush her hair before going to see an aunt, there's a desire to be seen okay. There's a desire to be like, I want to be acceptable. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm acceptable, I will be loved. If I'm loved, I'm okay. And we can start learning that subtle message of, in order to be loved, I need to look a certain way. And in order to be accepted, I need to look a certain way. Mm-hmm. Is that going to affect how we view our body? Yeah. It sounded like David was in the background going, yeah. But of course it will. And then there's the other story. And this is yesterday talking to Kimberly. She talked about her sister. So I want to be really clear. One of my big things in parenting is talking about that sibling relationship. It's incredibly important. And it'll go back to what we were talking about in the beginning. It's about the relationship of flow, talking to our children about what their strengths are, and talking to our kids about we're a team and we got each other's back. When I work with kids now, they will say to me, their greatest pains, okay? Two of their greatest pains. One is my parents don't like me. They just don't like me. Why do you say they don't like you? They don't notice me when I walk in the door. And when they do walk in the door, all they have is something negative to say. And the other thing is I lost it. Better come back.
I use it all the time.
What? I lost it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is called being a mom too.
Yes.
Lost it. Yeah. And I wish somebody would have taught me how to communicate with my siblings. I know for my brother and my brother used to beat the crap out of me. I mean, he would literally hog tie me and then put the rope over the bar in the closet and hoist me up and close the closet door. He locked me up in the attic once, closed it off, and then climbed on top of our roof and raked the roof and said rats were coming to get me. He'd hit me. It was awful. And when we got older, I remember him saying to me one day, he's like, I am so sorry. I wish somebody would have told me how to be with you. I wish somebody would have told me I was hurting you, but I didn't have that. And with the work I do with adults, when we look at some pains from the past, I have to tell you, so many blocks and emotional blocks today are because of relationships with siblings. And it's because something was going on with the sibling and the parents weren't there or didn't know to say, hold on a minute, that's not okay. And didn't help teach our children how to be with each other. And you have such an important story about this one. Can you share it?
Just that my brother beat me as well.
And more.
Yeah, he would. Yeah. And I never recall my mom saying, Jimmy, stop it. Jimmy, stop it. It was, or I'd be like, but Mom, he hit me. That's what big brothers do. He was almost 4 years older than me and he was big. Yeah. And I I just as an adult, probably 8 or so years ago, we were both cooking in the kitchen and he walked by me and I tensed up. I thought he was going to like do that noogie or whatever he used to do to me as a high schooler or college kid. And yeah. But I don't, there was never, he was never grounded because he was hitting me or spitting on me, or he never hog tied me. That's a good one.
My brother was special.
Yeah. And then he was there and such a force of nature in my life. And he wasn't very complimentary to me. He would, if I was going out for a date, he'd ask me who my buddy was, if I had a pimple on my cheek. And are you referring to the lacrosse story? Oh yeah. So one day I drove up, he was on the lacrosse team for his college and I was in high school, and I pulled up in my little car in my driveway and I'm like, oh my gosh, the entire lacrosse team is out there. They were sitting on the front lawn for whatever reason. They're passing through town and my mom's probably cooking them dinner because that's what she did. And I get out of my car and my brother says to me, you should get back in the car. It hides your hips. And in front of the whole lacrosse team. And he knows that my hips and thighs were always my biggest, like, they're so big kind of thing. And I ran to my room and, of course mom was like, oh, they know he's joking and you're beautiful, but there's nothing that could have taken that away.
No. And what you're naming is what I call, and a lot of practitioners call it, a crystallizing moment. We have these crystallizing moments in time where what happens is, and I love how you explain it. So it's like, oh my gosh, so they're here. So even as you say that, my whole body is like, there's this excitement. And when we get this excitement, it's like all of the cells in our body open up and like, yeah, okay, there they are. And then you're shamed.
Oh, yes.
And what happens is there is the shaming. So emotions, how we feel our emotions is chemical. We have a thought, and then the way we feel what's going on is a chemical flushes us, and you're flushed with shame, right? So here Kirsten is, she's like, yay! And here's the shame. It's like, and we always come in for protection. Okay. We always do. So think about this logically. Your body is now clamping down on that shame. And it's as if it holds on to it because it's like, I don't know what to do with this. Mm. And now what happens is the shame of my body by somebody who's supposed to have my back. He didn't have my back, and I don't belong, and I'm shamed in my own house. I'm holding on to the shame, and then it's just like, how we feel about our body gets now more shameful. And we have to be able to go back to those moments and go, okay, hold on a second. We have to be able to start rewinding a lot of that. Otherwise we carry it. And what happens is we start carrying it and it hurts so much that sometimes we don't allow ourselves to look at that memory because it hurts so much. And then because we're not looking at that memory, we don't know to tell our own children, please don't do that. It's not okay.
Oh, I think. Yeah.
Well, we either go toward or away. So some of us, like the whole lip gloss thing, like my mom is very, image is very important to my mom. She's beautiful and she pulls herself together incredibly well. And it's a lot of women, image is a part of acceptance. You'll accept me and it's what a lot of us were taught, right? For me, I sort of went the other way. I'm like, I'm not putting freaking lip gloss on. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm going to wear my ripped jeans because it's what I want to do. And I don't want anybody telling me what I need to look like to be accepted. So I can my pendulum sort of swings the other way and I need to bring it back. I'm like, okay, come on. So sometimes we either move more toward how we were taught, or sometimes we move completely away. And honestly, I think it's really about finding that middle ground. Mm-hmm. And finding ourselves in that, which I think, again, the fact that you found and landed on, I just want to feel good in my body.
Yeah.
Is the key to everything.
Yeah. It's and I'm proud to say it's an addiction and I'm okay with that.
Well, yeah. At the end of the day, the one thing I will share with my clients is we're addictive by nature. We are, because an addiction is a habit, right? And we're habit forming people. It's what we do. When an addiction takes you away from, or a habit, addiction, whatever you want to call it, takes you away from who you want to be and how you want to feel, is when it's a problem.
Right.
So you could be addicted to wanting to feel good, but recognize I'm not going to do it at the cost of my family or the cost of my body. There's the difference.
That's why I have to go at 5:30 in the morning, because then it doesn't interfere with anyone's schedule. Not my husband's, not my kids. It's my time.
And thank you for naming that too, because we are at a time where self-care is like this big buzz thing, right? It's like all about self-care. It's all about self-care. And then a lot of people are like, I don't have the time. And then what happens is I see this all the time. I don't have the time for self-care. And then there's resentment and there's anger toward their jobs, to their spouses, to their kids, because they can't find that time. And my answer is just, you can. You can. You just have to make sure that, first of all, and this is another one of your superpowers, by the way. I think one of the things that I recognize about you is when you're clear about what you want, you're clear and you make it happen. Mm. I think there's a lot of us, including me, I struggle with, what do I want? What do I want? I don't know what I want, you know, and it's hard for me, but it's something that I see you do really well. It's like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to make happen. This is important to me. And I'm gone.
What I did with my husband. I want you.
No.
Call me.
So tell me more.
No. But yeah, I gave my husband my number. He would never have asked me.
Yeah.
Long story, but yeah.
But it's true. I think there's I work with a lot of women in addiction also. And I will say that at the core of, especially AA, alcoholism, at the core is a sense of unworthiness and not feeling like they're loved and belonged. And oftentimes one of the things that they struggle with across the board is, I don't know what I want. I just don't. And not knowing what you want creates a real deep sense of insecurity and separation. So the more we can start getting clear about what we want, the more secure and connected we can become, especially when we can ask for it. And again, what you're doing is mirroring that to your children. It's allowed. So one of the things, we're going to wrap this up in a minute, as far as knowing what they want. See this little shirt. So she's a shopper and I am not, because I don't know what I want. So sometimes she'll be like, send me pictures. See this shirt? That's your color. Go get it. See this is, you need to get this one. And oftentimes I get it, then I get compliments on the shirts too. And this one, I think you had the same shirt from like 10 years ago. I think it's like forever ago.
Yeah, I still have it. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So here's the thing too, is everything's flow, right? Find what somebody's good at. So many of us moms compare ourselves to each other. And we put ourselves down because that person's getting it done better than I am, or she knows better than me. As opposed to, I call her all the time, like, will you tell me how to shop? Like, where do I get these little bras? Because I just don't know, you know? And the truth is, for me, I don't want to make it a priority of mine. And here's one last story I will share. And I love this story. So about a conversation you and I had, because it was an eye opener for me as well. So for 10 years, my ex-husband and I had a company traveling all around North America, teaching this mind-body healing aspect of, you know, getting to those crystallizing moments and having people unravel those and get to a place of happiness and wholeness. And Kirsten was working in the ski industry, the clothing retail, but you were a buyer designer?
That was Obermeyer. Nope, rep, sales.
Sales, right? So one day we were having this conversation and she was like, you know, you do this job that is like so important and you affect so many people, and all I do is ski clothes. Like, what does that mean about me? Do you remember that conversation?
It's sounding familiar. Yeah.
And what I looked at her, I'm like, so you think that my job is more important than your job? And you're like, well, yeah, because look what you do for people. I'm like, I like to ski. I don't know how to shop. I don't know what I like. And if you weren't doing the job you're doing, I wouldn't be able to ski.
Stop.
But it's true. And I'm saying it for a reason, because if we compare ourselves, comparison it's the core of all pain. It just is. And even in friendship, it's a flow. What I'm doing, honestly, is not any more important than what you're doing even today. At that time, being in retail, and here's the other thing I will say about Kirsten. She loves her jobs most of the time. But when she loves her job and she's fully in it, you're a better mom.
Yeah.
Right?
It feels
yeah. And there's a quote by Mother Teresa: if you want to save the world, go home. And I love that quote. It's a lot longer. I'm sort of, shortening it. But, yeah. She's the editor. I'm not. And so it's, if you want to save the world, go home. Go home to yourself and go home to your family and be happy. Because if you're happy and you're confident and you are home and you're letting it flow, that's your life's purpose. And if we wrap this up and bring it all back to body image, the more confident you are in yourself, the more secure you are in yourself as a woman, you give that to your children. And that translates over to, I feel secure, I feel loved, I feel seen, I feel like I belong. There ain't nothing to worry about here. There's just not. And if there's nothing to worry about here, then we've got kids that are walking around the world feeling pretty damn good, and they're going to succeed at work. They're going to succeed at relationships. They're going to have their ups and downs, but I'm going to tell you right now, this body image thing is wrapped up around self-worth more than looking at models. It's so much about self-worth, and it's about that self-worth starts with us and what we then mirror to our kids.
Yeah. To be honest, when you first approached me to speak with you today, my daughter, we're in quarantine like most, and she's been a dancer. She would work out 3 hours every day, 4 or 5 times a week, competitive dance team. And so she went from that to nothing. And I mean, literally nothing.
Yeah.
Dog walk.
Yeah.
To see her body already changing, and inside of me going, oh, she's not going to like that. She's not going to like when she puts on those shorts again this summer. She's putting on those shorts and they're fitting snugger, and she could care less. And I am so grateful for that, because that 15-year-old me would have not left my bedroom. And I wouldn't have known how to fix it at her age, because I wasn't a sports team, but I don't know, it was just a different time. Yeah. But to see her still so confident makes me so happy.
Yeah. And again, thank you for naming, be careful not to parent your children the way you were parented, but parent your children the way you wish you would have been parented. Is 2 different ways. That's called being present. That's present day parenting. A lot of us parent from the past with the way we were parented, and it's very unconscious. We're doing the best that we can with what we learned, and every day is a new opportunity to learn something different. It just is. And when you can catch yourself having that thought, oh my gosh, it's not, hold on, I have a choice in this moment, and I can meet this differently.
Yeah. Those are the moments where I'm like, wow, I'm really a mom, and I'm really part of this human being that's going out into the world. It's so strange still, and they're 14 and 15.
Yeah. I can't wait. Every day, I love my kids every day more and more and more, because of who they're becoming. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, as parents, our kids can have some things come out of their mouths that we're like, whoa. And my invitation is stop. Listen to what they're saying and how they're saying it and how it makes you feel. Have a conversation about it. Because I know that my daughter and I have had conversations, and my son too, where they'll be like, well, Mom, and they start questioning me. And I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
I don't think I believe that, actually. It came out of my mouth, but I don't even think that's mine. Thank you. And the opportunity in that is called intimacy. And the opportunity in that is called trust. And that's a magical place to live with your kids and your husband or your significant other and your friends. It just is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, for somebody who was nervous coming on here, being like, I don't know, this was good.
It's just like I'm having coffee with you.
That's what I said. I said, bring your teacup, your coffee will be fine. Yeah. It's totally fine. And I love that you had to text your son in between, because this is life. It is. And there's no right or wrong way. And our kids are a part of our fabric every single day. And we have to stop thinking that things have to be a certain way in order to get this right. They need to be able to, they need to just be a part of everything. It's fine.
Yeah. And it's just so interesting right now in this day to day with their limit to the outdoor, to the world right now.
That's right.
We were so excited to expose them to a new country, and that didn't happen when we were going to go to Mexico.
Oh, mm-hmm.
That was going to be such an important, fun time. And just, little things. I'm digressing, but
that's okay. You're allowed to.
It's just different. It's interesting. I feel like they're going to be a little stunted almost. Do you feel that?
No. Can I say that faster? No. And I'll tell you why. And I honestly believe this. If we have embraced this time and the moments that we have had in our home, and we haven't filled it with chaos and we haven't filled it with negativity, our kids have a bigger opportunity of recognizing that life happens. They're participants in it, and it doesn't have to stunt them, and it doesn't have to be negative. I've had more time with my kids and been able to watch, and I've had more opportunity to screw up right now. And I have screwed up, especially with this homeschooling thing. I have to tell you, like, I suck. I'm terrible at it. I'm really bad at it. My ex-husband is fabulous at it. And after screwing up and sort of yelling at my son the first 2 days, I'm like, I'm yelling at my kid. Like, I'm sorry. The truth is and this goes back to this teamwork. Even though I'm divorced, my ex-husband and I, we team off so well. I called him up. I'm like, the truth is I'm not good at this. I'm not, and I need your help. And even when they're at my house, can we call you?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
And he was like, of course. And what my children see in that is there's nothing wrong with their dad. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong. We're different people who do this differently. And I have the opportunity to say, I'm not doing this well with you. It's affecting my emotions. It's affecting how I'm speaking with you. And I'm going to choose to do something differently. It creates intimacy. I think that's a moment that will be with us for a long time. And it's an important one.
Yeah. And they know who to call in the moment. Oh, this is for dad. Nope, this is for mom. Yeah. We've been doing more home ec skills than schooling under my supervision. And yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much.
You
for joining me. This was really good. I honestly believe that the more stories that we can hear, the more we can talk about this, the more we can hear the experts talk about what they're doing. And experts are us parents, because we're in the trenches every day. And the more we could talk about the moments that work, the moments that did not work, and then how we changed that moment that didn't work into something wonderful, that is what life is all about. We did not come with a manual for a reason. And it is because our purpose is to be present to ourselves and our children, to get it right, to get it wrong, and to figure it out along the way. So, Kirsten Herzig, thank you so much. Talk to you shortly. Everybody else, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please send me an email at Christine@untangledmom, or you can message me here. Any questions about anything that we're talking about, or you'd like me to cover something new, I would really appreciate it. And until next time, tomorrow, by the way, I would like to say tomorrow I have Maya Huey coming on. She is a young woman who's not a parent, by the way. but she is a young woman who has struggled with an eating disorder. She has conquered this eating disorder. She now speaks, hold on. She is a part of the Boulder Youth Body Alliance, and she lobbied in Congress to pass a bill that would encourage research into eating disorders and help those struggling to get treatment covered under their health insurance. She travels around talking to kids and parents today about this issue. And one of the things I will ask her about, there's my dog, is what are the warning signs that we need to look for, and how do we talk more about it? So thank you all again. Hope you can join me tomorrow, and love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.